Well, what the fuck? What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mainstream Monday. It's been an exciting afternoon here. The studio we use has been doing some maintenance, so everything has been lost. All of the graphics, all of the intros, the countdowns, everything. So we're gonna give it to you raw today, just like your mama likes it, raw. What's up,
That's
Mr.
right.
Templar?
What's up? We're gonna bareback this shit. That's right. Fucking
That's right,
get your
dude.
antibiotics.
I tell you what, dude, I'm gonna need some. I got fucking bit by a scorpion last night.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
I swear to God, dude. I was sitting here at the computer and I was playing a game, and I felt like on my ankle, it felt like there was like a mosquito or something, right? And so I go to swipe at it, and then zap, boom, got me on the finger. It's
Yep.
been numb and tingly all night and all day, man. But
Dude.
it's actually feeling a lot better than it did last night. Like it's not too bad right now, but
So those fucking
man,
things get in your house like spiders in Arizona?
they I don't know exactly how they get in. I heard they come in through your drains, like through your sink and whatnot.
Dude.
So I never, dude. 40 years of living in the desert, I never had even seen a scorpion until I moved into the house that I'm in now, and I found out that it's the palm trees that they're attracted to. So, on the advice of our good friend Allie Angel, she told me to lay down the diametrius earth. So that's what I did, but it's definitely time for a new layer, as it did just rain recently. So probably time to put some new stuff up there. And you know what? While we're talking about Allie Angel, you want to tell the people what's going on while I pull up the page?
Yeah. So our friend Allie, she's a fighter, and it's my understanding that her implants ruptured or are at a point and they gotta get out, like absolutely. But I think the cost is something like 21 or $23,000 to fucking deal with that, which is insane. Especially when she said like the cost of them to just get them in the first time was, like 19 or some shit like that. Um,
Yeah.
but
Um, so here's this isn't the original post, but thank you to all that have contributed. Thank you to my amazing circle for
yes,
love and support. I appreciate you more than words can express. Please keep sharing. Reminder to only click the links on original posts. There are already scammers posting in the comments, as we know would happen. And if you click on the link here, folks, there's links to her PayPal, her Venmo, her Cash App, and she's also set up a GoFundMe, and she's trying to raise 22,000, and she's about 5% there. So she needs a lot more help, guys. And she's, dude, one of the nicest people in the truther community. I mean, she's always so kind to everybody, sending them shirts and going out of her way. I mean, dude, she sent me all kinds of spices one time, and some jalapeno seeds to try to grow some jalapenos. And I mean, she's just really an amazing person. So go to Fit Girl Truth at Fit Girl Truth, and you can see the posts on there, and donate to her, and show her some love and support, because she could definitely use it right now.
and
Um,
if I could add to that part right there,
yeah.
like if you
Yep.
can't help financially, if you're just willing to even repost that out, that'll be a
Yeah.
big help because it's a
Just share
numbers
it.
game, right? Even if a couple people here and there can add to it, it gets her closer to the goal, dude. And she's deserving. She really is. So anyone who can
For
do anything,
definitely
even if it's a
real.
share, we would appreciate that.
For real. For real. For real. Next, let's bring up the Phone Booth Substack. Go to the Phone Booth Substack. Check out all the great content on there. 4 or 5 different.
Conscious Sean.
Yeah, that's a banging episode talking about AI, new beginnings. If you're a subscriber, for $1 on X, you can subscribe to Snoop Bomb Poop, or through the Substack, I believe it's $5 a month to get to all the bonus content. There's tons of free content on there as well, so you won't be disappointed with just the free account. But subscribers do get episodes early, so you can see I've got tomorrow's Here's the Thing episodes already available to subscribers on there, and then you've got all the past episodes, all kinds of stuff. We got the phone booth merch store. Go check it out. All kinds of threads on there. That's another way you can help Allie too. Is if you go to Fit Girl Truth, you can buy some tees from her. That'll help her a little bit. But she doesn't make very much off of the shirts. Hardly anything, to be quite honest. So any type of support is good support. But again, here's the phone booth merch, all kinds of good threads up on there. Got some coffee mugs, some stickers, all kinds of stuff. And when you get done over there, head on over to Can-Am Bullion. Get yourself some precious metals. Looks like they're up just a tiny bit. Silver's up almost 2%. So that's good. Looks like gold is continuing to rise. I believe it was only around 4,000 just about a week or two ago.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's climbing back up there. Head on over there, and if you want to make some bigger purchases, give a shout out to Michael Piccioni, and he can get you all set up and get it dialed in, and they send it all nice and discreet to your house. No big label that says, "Hey, asshole, steal my silver." Uh, you know, give it a look see. Check it out. Buy some metal. Listen
And
to
just
metal.
just to address something real quick, it looks like the X chat is still kind of fucked up. Steve
Okay.
Richens, what chat are you commenting on, my friend?
That's from X. But are you
Yeah,
on
but
whose X page are you on? Are you on Ted's page or Snoop's page?
I
What up?
tried yours and I tried Ted's and I put tests on both of them and it hasn't come through.
Huh. What's up, Johnny Paradise? How you doing, brother? I have a pet scorpion. Ooh, man. Why? Why? Shout
I got one
out to,
tattoo and it's a scorpion.
oh no.
Yeah.
Shout out to Johnny Paradise. Hoping to have him on the podcast soon. We just need to get it recorded, but shout out to him. He's a good dude. And dude, how was your weekend, Mr. Templar?
That's good, man. Me and the boys saw what Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man movie, and went to steak and wings
Dude,
one
how
time.
was it?
Like Biff Don said, like right away, it was like the movie Fallen with Denzel Washington. It was like, oh, this is what we're doing. It was a good movie, but as soon as the movie started, the first time you see the shit going, you're like, okay, I get what's going on here. But it was a good movie. It was fun.
Yeah, I can't. I seen it already made $2 billion or something like that.
Is that really? Holy shit! Well, I mean, it's a superhero franchise, so I guess, yeah. Holy
Oh,
shit!
so yeah,
That's a
I'm
lot
ready
of
for
fucking
some.
money for a movie, bro.
Right, I'm ready for some new content. I mean, superhero movies I guess are fun if you're a comic book nerd, but you know,
They've
and it's just
oversaturated the market.
for real. It's just like every little thing, that was great. They just keep redoing and fucking up even more. Isn't there is it did I see are they making another Spider-Man already?
Uh,
Like what
I,
it's supposed to
I
be
don't
like a
know, but I
darker.
I know that they have a what is it called? A Avengers Doomsday with like Doctor Doom and all that. So I saw the previews there, but I have no idea. Maybe they are doing another Spider-Man. I don't look out for the shit until like I see the ad or whatever. I don't even watch TV, so
Yeah. Well, dude, our first topic tonight, man, was she in a superhero movie? Was she in any of them?
yeah. She was in Heroes. She
Okay.
was which was a show about everybody getting these powers, and she was the cheerleader, and that's why you hear "Save the cheerleader, save the world," because she was kind of like the key to all of it, but she didn't know. And it's a really good series. It kind of went a little wanky in like the last season or whatever, but overall, it was pretty fucking cool. Like it has some cool concepts.
Yeah, I never have seen it. I did see a tiny bit of the other show, Nashville, I think it was called.
Okay.
It was about like music industry and stuff, so I was kind of more up my alley.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, rest in peace to Hayden Panettiere. Um, Found dead last night. Um, they're saying possible overdose.
Mhm.
What do you think?
Honestly, I think it's a high possibility. I do. Because two things I know, right? Like, she struggled with addiction a lot, especially in her younger years, and it sounds like she kind of moved away from it. But one of the problems with that is whether it's alcoholism or whether it is drug addiction, especially like if you're in severe cases of both. When you relapse years later, you still have your mental image that you can do it the way you did before. And so when people relapse, they fucking ingest high amounts. You know what I mean? They don't reintroduce it to themselves. So it increases the likelihood of an overdose or a really bad reaction. And I'm thinking that it's probable. Not enough information has come out. I know that, like last week or the week before when fucking, what was his name, Joe Phelps or whatever died, everybody wanted to jump right in on the thing about it was a conspiracy. And then now, as soon as everyone heard that she died, kind of like the same thing's happening. And I noticed on X, like, there's like the whole trending thing, right? Like, oh, she was sacrificed and save the cheerleader, save the world. And I almost wonder, like if they're training people on X. You know what I mean? Like, kind of like we talked about before. Like they want us to think like that because I think I sent you a picture. She's got that Illuminati fucking IRA tattoo on the back of her neck. Did I send that to you?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Um,
but
well,
she was clearly in the club, so
right.
whether she was sacrificed or not, I just didn't put a lot of energy into her because I didn't.
Well,
I seen she talked about some crazy shit though. Like,
yeah, and we're gonna get into that video right here. But the thing is that that's what they do. Like this is all by design. They make it look like whether or not she has a drug addiction, they feed her that addiction, they gave her that addiction, you know what I mean?
yep,
And then even if she does get sober, and when I say she, we're talking about Hayden right now, but it could be anybody, insert anybody else in her place, and it's the same story.
yep,
Michael Jackson, they say they could say he overdosed on propofol, and now they
yep.
can say Hayden, I heard she was taking pills. I don't know how much truth there is to that, so don't quote me on it. But now it's totally believable. Oh, she OD'd. That makes sense. Or she was sacrificed. Well, that makes sense too. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's
Yep.
just how they keep the speculation open so that people like us go on podcasts and talk about it. You know. But we got this video here, and I'll add it to the scene here. Watch Hayden Panettiere says she was 18 when a woman she trusted as a protector took her below deck on a yacht and physically put her in bed beside an undressed, very famous man. By the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite.
Uh-oh, what happened? Did I freeze or did you freeze, Snoop? I can't tell. Hello? Which one of us? Okay, I'm still here, but Snoop isn't. It looks like.
And who was very famous. My hair stood on end and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. I bolted and hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away. When you really find somebody that you trust,
Uh-oh. Guess it's happened. Yep. Sorry, guys, bear with us. Yeah.
Her frontal lobes
Sometimes.
don't develop until we're what, 20, 26, 25, 26. So even though I felt like I could make healthy decisions, safe decisions, I wasn't capable of being fully aware of what was going on around me. And it wasn't until I found myself in predicaments that I realized, like, my perspective completely shifted, and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And it was I mean, that moment shook me and was shocking. And I was quite literally walked down, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening. So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was somebody led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back, and to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous, and had his hands like this, like this was just, an average day for him. This is something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave, and I mean, that lion in me, that fire in me, my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide, and I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. On a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to. I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation, that this was nothing new to them.
I mean, it's such a horrifying event to go through, and to be put in that position at 18 years old.
And disappointing when somebody lets you down like that. And I'd been let down so much before, and that when you really find somebody that you trust, like, you hold on to them for dear life, and you feel so.
So I mean, you can hear the pain, you know, when she speaks. You can hear that something for sure happened.
I'm a
I don't.
skeptic.
Yeah, you're skeptical.
I'm skeptical. Here's why. I've been on a
Okay.
few boats myself, right?
Okay.
And two things. One is I went through a lot of Epstein files. I didn't go through every single Epstein file by any means, but I went through a lot. So I've seen a lot, and I've heard a lot of the stories. And the story she's talking about sounds really familiar to some Epstein stories that I've heard, for one. For the second part is when she talks about where she hid, she gets really vague, and then she's just like, wherever you can hide on a boat. Well, there's not a lot of places that you can hide in a boat, right? I mean, it's a condensed small area. And if there's a party going on, right, you got other people maneuvering around too. So that's going to make it harder to hide, right? So my spidey sense immediately starts saying, if you're in the bed and this happens, and like, you run off, and they're trying to find you, it's not going to be hard for them to find you, because there's only so many places that you could even go. And if you're on somebody's rich dude's boat, there's probably video surveillance on there as well, or some kind of security system and whatnot. They probably have a security staff. So that was another thing that kind of made me wonder, right? And then on top of that, when it happened and you went and you hid and somehow they didn't find you and you made it back to shore, why didn't any of that come out then? Especially, you know what I mean? Like, because you were a star, you were powerful, you could have brought attention to it. And again, if it happened, it happened.
Well,
But
it
these are
sounded
the
it
things on
sounded
my
like
brain.
she wasn't able to hide. It sounded like what she was saying, that she had nowhere to go. She couldn't do that stuff. And as far as like talking about it after she gets to shore, I think there's people that are way more powerful than her. You know what I mean? It's just like all these other stars that have been abused. Like you take Justin Bieber for example. Um, he leaves clues and drops clues all the time. About him being abused and whatnot, but nothing ever happens from it. Yeah, we sit here, we talk about it, but the bottom line is ain't nothing going to happen to him, because the people that are doing it are so powerful.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's the industry, it's systematic. And don't get me wrong, I don't know. I guess I'm a cynical skeptic, I really am. And look at that tattoo, right? Like,
Yeah.
she's in the club. You see the three pyramids, which, those all relate. I'm gonna towards the, three pyramids in Gaza. You got the small one, the one Great Pyramid, right? But those are also the three wise men that, are chasing the Northern Star, which is Polaris and whatnot, right? So that's Orion's belt and Polaris, which he has, with the the symbology of Ra underneath it. If anything says like, "Hey, I'm in the club," that kind of screams it to me. Which then again makes me wonder if you know she's being forward or if she knew that this kind of a story might garner sympathy or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I'm very skeptical of this whole narrative with her right now. So, that's just me, like that's my
Yeah.
take with her, like look at that.
Yeah, it's tough, because these people get involved with these shady groups and these symbolic organizations, and you never know the truth. It's just like it could be anything. Yeah, and was she voluntarily in this club, or like did her parents put her in this club? You know, was she sold to someone? That's the other thing, is like a lot of these people that are involved were sold into it. They didn't have a choice. I believe, Michael Jackson. I believe he was just kind of thrown into it. I don't think he had a choice. I mean, how old was he when the Jackson Five came out?
Oh, dude,
You know what I mean?
he was fucking young. Yeah, Joe used to whoop his ass and make him perform. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, can you sit closer to the mic? Your audio's kind of.
Oh yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, there you go. That'll work. Um, yeah, I was just kind of losing you, but I think some people will put tattoos like this on their body too and not be a part of it too. So I don't know if a tattoo is enough to really say this or that, you know?
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I don't think there's a certain way to know one way or another. I mean, we know that the industry is full of perversions, right? We know that it's filled with pedophiles and predators. And what she's saying absolutely does occur, right? Like they will bring, and I saw, like a clip earlier. I think she was on Rosie O'Donnell's show. And I mean, she was really, really young at that. So she's clearly been in the entertainment business for a long time. And like they fracture your personality. They fracture your psyche through fucking uh s- through sexual abuse, right?
Yep.
That's the number one way that they do it is through sexual abuse to just break your mind so then they can start imprinting on your trauma, right? You go off to your safe place and they fucking rewrite you. Um, and if this is all true, and we take it her word at it, that's very, unfortunate, because I think people like Britney Spears and shit like that, I think that's what happened, right? And I think that they break their mind, and then I think they just kind of pass them around to powerful, wealthy men and politicians and shit, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it's very possible that that occurred with her, and that's extremely unfortunate too.
It's like, did you ever see that movie Almost Famous?
Yeah, yeah, a while ago. That's with the kid who worked for Rolling Stones, and he hung
Cameron
out with like,
Crowe, yeah.
was it Led Zeppelin or some shit that he was touring with?
No, well, there's another band that was touring, maybe I think with Zeppelin, but
Okay.
um, in the movie, like one of the groupies or whatever, like the female groupies that hang around them,
Mhm.
uh, the band members and band manager are playing a game of cards, and they lose the girl in the one game of cards. Like you just said, they get passed around like that, and it's really interesting because I was reading this book, and I we talked about it recently. I think it was you and I talked about it. Um, uh, Bryce Taylor wrote this book, "Thanks for the Memories," and it's all about how she was put into this. Sold her. Her father sold her to I think it was Bob Hope, and then they would program her at Disney, behind the scenes at Disney, and she was made into like a human computer, and they would input messages and information into her, through the beatings and the abuse and stuff, and then she would meet with all kinds of presidents and famous people and deliver messages from one to the other, because that way it's not traced through like a telegram, or
Right.
but back then that's what they used. They didn't have email and shit back then, and she's got ties to like about five presidents in a row, and then she said Henry Kissinger was the one that would program her to like the computer. He would be the computer programmer, but Bob Hope was her legit owner.
Dude, I would believe that. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's how it works. So like, it all sounds 100%. That's crazy though. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's such a mind fuck, right? Because being a normal person, you'd love to just think, no, no, that's not a systematic thing, But then the more you like go down that rabbit hole and you realize like, no, these are devious fucking powerful people, and it's easier for them to break your psyche and to get you ingrained in this, because at that point not only can they start to trust you, but you will bring in others so that they can repeat the cycle. And like, dude, it's so fucking devious, bro. That is some devious, dark, dark stuff. I mean, I can't even. You try to put your mind where somebody would have to be in a situation like that. But it's at a certain point, you can't. It just breaks down.
Dude, what would be like an interesting episode we could maybe do as bonus content one time is, you remember the what was it called, Boys Town stuff back
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah,
80s?
yeah.
That shit's interesting too. And it's along these similar lines, of all these young boys being kidnapped and put into stuff, and
Because they
Hunter.
believe through the particularly through little boys is how they gain power and shit like that. I mean, it's real fucked up, the philosophy behind it, but boys more so than girls. So that's, yeah. Keep going. Sorry, man.
What was interesting is there's this guy, and I don't remember the name, Johnny Grosh or something like that. Well, there was like this White House aide, um, during I think it was during Bush, and
Okay.
they think that this was one of the kidnapped kids from back in Nebraska, I believe, is where all of it took place. And he has like the same initials, and it could be him just as an adult now, and you know, uh, like he's connected to all of this shit. And Hunter Thompson spoke out about it too briefly before he died. And so a lot of people speculate that Hunter Thompson was maybe unalived by someone else instead of
Gotcha.
himself. Um, and when he did that, really weird that he had called his girlfriend and did it with her on the phone, which it doesn't seem like something that somebody would do. I don't know. I've never been in that position or felt the need to unalive myself. So I mean, it just doesn't seem like something that somebody would do in that situation. you know
Well, if you think about it, Stanley Kubrick, right, when he did Eyes Wide Shut, he died right at the end during the editing process, right? And they went back and they took some shit out and then they
yeah.
re-edited the thing in. And when you watch the movie, there's still things that point to it. So that seems to be a running pattern, that if you were involved in this shit, if you had deep knowledge of this stuff and you start opening up your mouth about it and you can get any kind of platform, I mean, you're done. I can't remember the name of the kid. He was like a Disney star or whatever, right? I mean, he talks about Diddy and shit, the things that he used to do to him. I think it was like a boy from That's So Raven or whatever. I don't know what the dude is because I didn't watch those shows. I wasn't a Disney kid. But he said the only reason nothing happens to him is because through the drugs and everything, like he just sounds crazy, right? So he's no legit threat, and
Yeah.
that's been his only cover, and that also makes sense, right? Because fucking, if you're powerful, if you're somebody like a Bill Gates or whatever, you're not gonna let that shit out there. Not even you don't even want it at a surface level where you got to deny it, or be like, oh, 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 clearly that person's crazy. It's just easier to fucking, oh, sorry, you opened your mouth, deal over.
Yeah. Do you know what's wild is you mentioned Diddy, and there was that guy. I posted that video of the Mar-a-Lago shooter, and when he was being interviewed by FBI, he was talking about Diddy and Diddy parties and everything, and saying how like they were involved with the Clintons and that they were trying to take out Trump, and that's why he was there, was just to warn Trump, that all these people, and then he was mentioned in the courtroom. They talked about him in the courtroom, and it's like, holy shit, this guy is probably telling the truth.
Now, is that the same guy, the same prisoner? So before everyone knew anything about Diddy, he already went through. So Diddy hadn't even been arrested. This guy gets is being interviewed, requests that the Secret Service and all that
Yeah.
shit be involved and whatnot. And then he even filed a lawsuit. That guy won his lawsuit recently, just as a heads up. And like Diddy's in jail and shit like that, but not related to him because he did a civil lawsuit or whatever.
Right.
But time has definitely proven that guy to be fucking honest. And when he's saying what he's saying in the interrogation room, like I'm sure the cops initially thought, oh, this guy's fucking whacked, like listen to this story. But then, you hear the Diddy stories, you hear the Epstein stories, and I mean, it becomes clear like, oh shit, dude, this guy was fucking ahead of the game. He was letting people know what was up before anyone had an inkling, and of course it sounded crazy, because the level of depravity, the level of coordination, you know, is wild. And of course it is, because they're sexually trafficking people all over the place, in Haiti, and fucking every time you hear a conspiracy theory that this school was opened for this purpose, or what happened to the kids in the Maui fire and shit like that, you never hear anything back on it, right? There's no answers. The police blocked the roads on the Maui fires, right? Like
Yeah.
they created a fucking death trap, and it was only the people who were smart enough to say, dude, this isn't fucking right. Why would you be stopping us? And made their own way out that, got to survive. And the police chief from the Maui fire was the police chief from the fucking Las Vegas fire, right? Like,
Yep.
what are the odds on these things? So it almost feels like they put their people in place to quarantine the truth, or, so I would imagine there's no way to really dispute it because, look how many parents died, right? They just say, oh, the kids were killed in the fire,
Yeah.
right? How many kids go missing in at Disney, right? But yet they got huge complexes underground and fucking tunnel systems and shit like that. Like it's built for it, They have their own fucking networks. And when I first heard about tunnels and shit back in the day, I thought, yeah, there's probably bunkers and there's probably, like some tunnel systems that the military used for normal things or whatever. But I didn't really understand the level and infrastructure that they actually have. Because again, it sounds so fucking woo woo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just sounds so extreme that the first reaction is, that's exaggerated. But then when you do look into it, you're like, fuck, dude, no, there's meat on that bone. That's like real shit, and it's really dark, dude. Like,
Mhm.
we're governed by fucking psychotic psychopaths, dude. Like, and they don't give a fuck about us, and they victimize our children. Dude, taking your kids to the magical place on earth. Can you imagine? The kid goes to the fucking bathroom. All of a sudden, your kid doesn't come out. Where the fuck's my kid? Well, yoink. He's off in a tunnel fucking somewhere. You know what I mean? And that's the last of that. Like, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I've been trying to find this guy ever since. Like, I saw some videos this guy put out probably about, I don't know, 14, 15 years ago. And
Okay.
this guy was talking about how he's a songwriter, singer, and that he got into the industry and he started writing all these songs for all these big name artists, and he would do it like in this cloning type factory where they had, all these artists. Britney Spears, I remember, was one of them. I think Eminem was another one. And he would like write all these big hits for people, and I've never been able to find him since. I don't remember his name, and I can't find anything about him anymore. And this was probably
Yeah,
about
because that shit
15 years.
gets scrubbed. That sounds, dude. Oh my god, what I would give to just even see that, even if he wasn't. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yep.
fucking yeah. Because
And it
looking at it now with what he was saying, to be able to fucking compare it, or you know what I mean? Like fuck.
hmm And dude, I was talking to my mom this morning about some things. She was asking me some stuff about Katie Hobbs, and like we're just talking about right now, nothing ever happens to these higher ups. I said it's very similar to what's going on with voter fraud. You know, there's been so many cases won now where they've proven that there was voter fraud, right? And some people have gone to jail, some people have been found guilty, but nothing ever happens to the people that are elected. Nothing happens to the other people involved. There's always the fall guy. You
Yep.
know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's just
Yep.
it's no different than this stuff. Nothing ever happens to the higher ups. Sure, Diddy's in jail right now,
Right.
but what about the people
On the
behind?
lowest charge possible, by the way. On the
Right.
lowest charge possible, and not in all the ways that yeah,
And
dude.
the only reason he's not out right now is because he's gotten in a couple of fights. He would be out of jail right now had he not been in these couple of fights, and he would have been out already.
Dude, I absolutely believe that. That they put those governors and shit in place, especially in like cities or states that they operate the most in.
Well,
Like
dude, it's just
that's
like we
that
were
put.
talking about with that fucking Abdul guy, Saeed or
Yep.
whatever.
Yep. Dude, look
Yeah.
at Vivek Ramaswamy. Why do you think he wants fucking Ohio so much? Why do you know what I mean? Like Ohio's always been a hub. Ohio.
Yeah. It's been a big hub since the Rockefellers went there 100 something years ago.
Dude, yes. Like that's why they put them in place. And then once you have the major powers in place, it doesn't really matter what happens at the surface level, right? Like how many times do you hear a story about horrific shit that happened? And even with the Jeffrey Epstein thing, right? Cops that initially were investigating it and shit either were told to back off, or next thing you know, they're fucking suicided, or they're killed in some random fucking robbery, kind of weird shit. You know, look at fucking Seth Rich. Seth Rich released a bunch of shit from on the Democrats, then the uh, DNC and all that,
Yeah.
and he's found dead in a robbery gone wrong, but they didn't bother to take his wallet or his watch or anything. Well, what kind of fucking robbery is that, right? It makes me think of enemy of the state, when the senator's over by the pond and they grab his ass and they fucking night night for you, like, oh, cardiac arrest.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Since we were just mentioning Epstein, I wanted to share this video too. Check this out.
Go with
Um,
it.
Do you think Epstein is still alive?
I think there's a chance he is, and I did not think there was a chance of that several months ago. I never thought he offed himself. I always thought he was killed. We were able to get the full schematic of Jeffrey Epstein's cell and rebuild it piece by piece down to the pill bottles on the bed. Jeffrey Epstein's
So that right there is the only problem that I have with this video, and we'll let it play out in just a second. But anybody that's been to jail knows that they don't give you pill bottles in your cell. Okay? Like there's no way that he has pill bottles in his cell. They distribute them with breakfast and dinner, or whatever the scheduled medication time is. They distribute them to you.
Yeah,
They
in
don't
some
fucking
little
give you
white
bottles.
paper cup, right? Little pill
Right.
shot glass
Right.
looking thing.
And the other
Papers.
problem that I have is that they say that he had like so many uniforms, or outfits or whatever, that he was able to
Right,
hang
you get
himself with.
what you have.
Right.
Yeah,
You
there's
get
no
one
change
at
of
a
clothes.
time. Right. So, but let's finish this.
Bed is here. The prison door's here. This corner right here had roughly like a 4x8 indentation. Think of like an L, where the wall, instead of having a corner, it creates a corner. On the official Bureau of Prison schematics, it does not show that for this cell. And this is the only cell that has that, and it does not show this vent. It is an air vent. Like on the other side, it's just open space. That vent makes way more sense to be able to hide someone for, if you needed to, 3 days, to be able to move them out of there in something like a laundry cart.
So there's a vent that Epstein could fit within inside of his cell that wasn't inside of any of the other cells in the prison?
That's right. And it wasn't on the Bureau of Prison schematic. This was my reaction too.
Do you think Epstein is still alive?
I think there's a chance.
So we'll put that up there with all the other stuff that the guards fell asleep, the cameras didn't work, fucking what, all
Well,
the
don't-
other shit.
Don't forget about that guard. Before the news broke that Epstein died, there was the posting on 4chan. And the longer it went on, the dude was like, guys, I think they fucking like took him out because there were two things. Like he was explaining all of it that morning. And then everyone's like, you're full of shit. Why ain't we seeing it on the news? And then like a couple hours later, it shows up on the news. And that's when I was like, dude, I think that might have been fucking Jeffrey Epstein kind of like, kind of putting his own shit out there, kind of like, being slick. But even if it wasn't, even if it was a guard there at the facility, they had knowledge of the information before it ever happened, right? And I mean, dude, yeah, I think that guy got out. I mean, there's so much weird shit when you do. And then they gave us the camera and the timestamp was wrong. And then when Kash Patel got in, he was going to give us the goods and all that. And then you saw like they fucking, one was AI and then another thing was like they cut the time on the thing. So there's like all this fuckery around it instead of just being honest. Well, what are you hiding? Well, you're hiding all the shit that pokes the hole in your story, the roommates, all that, dude, And Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Like, they always show her, like, oh, she's out for a walk. And it'll be like a really far away picture. They don't use the fucking zoom on their super cameras for some reason, right? And she's like walking with a fucking umbrella or something anyways. So she looks obscured. But then you see that other like fresh mugshot or whatever. And it just looks like a completely different person. Because once they get you in there, I mean, dude, Ghislaine Maxwell, without them even showing us a picture of her, right? Like, every now and again they could throw in court. You wouldn't know if she's in fucking solitary confinement in that prison. There's no way to know if she's there or off on an island somewhere, right? This bitch had fucking a submarine station under her fucking thing in the bed, right? Like she's
got a submarine like some Grand Theft Auto character.
Dude, and I would wonder if her father, Robert Maxwell, was fucking the head of Mossad, right? And she's with Epstein. There's points where I wonder, was Epstein necessarily running the show, or was he kind of the front image for her? You know what I mean? Like sometimes you keep the extra space to kind of block the power, and it's easier, right? Everyone would assume a man, and he gets all the benefits of being in that operation. Like they put him out as the front man, but I mean it would make sense that she would be at least as powerful as he was, just based on who her dad was and all the information, let alone, like she's driving fucking submarines. Who drives submarines? You know what I mean? Like it gets really, really super villainy-ish really fast when you just start looking at all the weird things with the cases. When you look how, they didn't apply maximum pressure on Diddy. When you look at Hugh Hefner and all the fucking tunnels and you realize that the Playboy Mansion was basically like an open fucking brothel and shit, right? Like, and same thing, like we'll feed your cardinal pleasures, but you're either gonna get blackmailed for it or you're gonna bend the knee and you're gonna owe us, like that
right.
whole system.
Why does one need a submarine? Like I get like James Cameron or whatever, like he's got some crazy underwater vessels that he likes to dive down deep and search. I get that, but I don't think that's why she had a submarine.
No, and James Cameron's weird enough is a fucking engineer. Like that guy's way smarter than just being a Hollywood movie guy when you look into him, like fucking but yeah, why? And they would take friends down on like fucking, you know, little drives and shit. You want to go in the submarine? Like, dude, like, but how much money and all of just, you know what I mean? To your escape plan is a fucking trap door with a submarine so you can get out and go anywhere. Just that in itself is mind boggling. Like, they operate at such a fucking level like that. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is they want to operate in international waters where
Hmm.
the laws are different.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yep. Yep. And to the point that they buy whole fucking islands, right? Jared Kushner and them wanted to fucking buy that island that had all the fucking bunkers and shit on it, like, and of course they do. They want it out in the middle of nowhere away from prying guys. Where did they put the Zorro Ranch? In the middle of the fucking desert, right? Where they could do anything. Anything on the land, God knows what underneath, right? Nobody's looking at that shit. You live in Arizona. I imagine you could probably drive 30 minutes in a certain direction and you probably end up basically in the middle of nowhere at the start of the middle of nowhere or something, right?
Probably less than that.
Probably less than that. Okay. See? Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, there's definitely some remote places. When I had Clive Christopher on Here's the Thing podcast, I was talking to him, and he puts out the documentaries, the Aliens Uncovered documentaries, and
okay.
one of the documentaries that he put out, they were showing all over Arizona because he's from Arizona as well, and so he was showing all over the state that they have all kinds of runways all over the place in the middle of nowhere that the military would use back in the day for whatever, and one of them was right across the street from where Haywood and I used to live. And I pulled it up on Google Maps right away, and sure as shit, you could still see the runway. They just built condos on top of it just recently, but you can still see the remnants of the runway there. It's
And I
wild.
would imagine if you go, because you know how on Google Maps you can go like prior years back. I wonder if you can kind of still see the silhouette because yeah, shit like that leaves scars in the land and
Hmm.
shit.
Yeah.
Well, what was his name? Webb? Was it
Del
Webb?
Webb.
Um,
Del Webb.
yeah, yeah. The dude who was running the drugs in Mena, Arkansas, and shit like
Oh,
that, and
Barry Seal.
Barry Steele. Webb. There's another Webb. Was the guy who fucking went off about the CIA and fucking the drugs in the inner city and shit like that. That's right. So Barry White or wait,
Barry
what?
Seal.
What'd you say? Barry Seal. Yeah, yeah. Uh, like they set up that whole fucking system out in the middle of nowhere, right? And then
Mhm.
you got the two boys who allegedly fell asleep on the
The
train
train
tracks,
tracks.
smoking weed and shit in Mena, Arkansas and whatnot, which most likely just
And
came
who
across the
covered all
fucking
that
drop.
up? Who covered all
Right,
that up?
right. Papa Bush and Billy
William
Boy.
Clinton.
Yep. Yeah. Even in the movie, they hint to it, right? Because Governor Clinton is on the phone, right?
Yep.
The governor at that time. And that's how you get this little fucking redneck from the middle of nowhere ends up jumping to the presidency. And prior, you can see the old school pictures of him shaking Kennedy's hands on a field trip, you know?
Yeah. I just want to let all of our viewers out there know that it seems that there probably is still some problems with the comments. This was
Yep.
happening on Saturday night as well, on not just our podcast, it's happening on other podcasts as well. It could be a problem with the studio software that we use. We're looking into that. They were doing some maintenance on the studio software today, which is why we don't have our graphics. Our intros was messed up. The thumbnail, I wasn't able to display the thumbnail for today's episode. But I apologize to everybody. So just know that if you are trying to comment, we're not seeing them. As you can see, they're not showing up on the screen. So just know that we appreciate you and we love you and we're not ignoring you.
Yeah,
But
we're not censoring you for sure, dude. Fucking,
it,
if the comments were working, whatever it is that you were writing
it
would
looks
be up
like
here.
sometimes they're working. Poppy Garcia commented from Rumble. Johnny Paradise commented from another platform. And
Right. If you want to go jump over on YouTube, I know everybody pretty much has a YouTube account. If you want to go over there just to like, if you have a comment or something, it's
yeah,
very likely that you could probably get a comment through over there. Potentially
yeah,
having
just
some
go to at Snoop Von Poop on YouTube, and you may be able to get a comment through. But wow, so I mean, that's these Hollywood stories, man. This industry, and it's not just Hollywood too, man. Like I feel like this shit happens in other industries too, but we don't talk about it because it's not as appealing. Everybody wants to know what's going on with the stars in Hollywood, but like, what about these other industry people? What about these Rothschilds and Rockefellers and, people that own companies like Tyson Foods? You don't hear about their kids. When I used to go to Florida for the summers, there was a kid that I would see all the time, Matt Pasteur. His family is from the Pasteur family. And they invented pasteurization, shit like
Yeah,
that. You never hear
sure.
about these people and the shady shit they're involved in because they're all connected. They all come back to those, Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission. They all have ties into this other shit. And that's why a lot of these people become celebrities is through their connections, through their networks.
Right. And what's interesting about that is the way they sell that individual with like some kind of fucking story, right? They always attach a good rags to riches story or a good fucking, little guy climbing up and breaks through. You know what I mean? And it's like a part of the character that they create out there. You saw it with Tupac and all these guys. As time goes on, you see more and more. Even Lil Wayne, dude. I seen that fucking video like a week ago or 2 weeks ago where he talks about when he was 9 years old. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I believe it leads to something in his mouth from a guy
Yeah,
named Birdman.
and then his other friends and shit, and you can see like while he's talking about, it, he's saying he loved, but you like see this like pain on the guy, and
Pain
and
or
his friends are
fear.
all laughing. Yeah, and all his friends are like fucking laughing and all like cool about it, but that's what it is, dude. Like they put their people because they can control you, and then they're gonna make money off of you. And when you become a threat to their money, they off you, right? Like how many
Hmm.
times do you see this mega celebrity who has all this money, and then all of a sudden, like they're either dead or they're going fucking broke because their manager or somebody has been like fucking embezzling all their fucking loot. Like that's what it is. It's just, they make money for themselves, and then that's not enough. They take your fucking money too. You're just a product. You're the symbol that the people buy into. So the cash flow comes in. You're just they're they think they live the life. When I was a kid, do you remember Corey Haim? Like he was in
Yeah,
License to Drive and
love
Lost
that
Boys and all
movie.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a little kid and Lost Boys and all that shit came out, like I loved that guy. I thought he was the coolest fucking kid. I was like, man, dude, I would love to be in Hollywood and make movies like him. I'd love to fucking hang out with him. And then I get older and I find out like how fucked up he had it. And it's like, wow, it was nothing like my mind had perceived it to be. And thank God he blessed me and didn't throw me that way, put me to the wolves, but fuck.
Yeah, I might be one of the only people of our generation to not have seen Lost Boys. Crazy as that sounds, I've never seen it, but I did always love License to Drive. Was one of my favorite movies as a kid.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
classic.
I it's no secret I've grown up around the entertainment industry, starting with the NBA when I was a ball boy for the Suns. And although I never saw the stuff back then because I wasn't awake to it yet, but I look back at like I remember meeting a bunch of entertainers. The All-Star game was in Phoenix that year, so of course they had tons of entertainers, and I was meeting like Boys to Men and like people from TV shows, like this girl from that show Blossom and whatever. And I remember meeting one of the guys from Boys to Men, and like I remember him like looking me up and down and like not letting go of my hand when I shook it. And I look back at it now and think how creepy it was, But
Right. And back
that's
then you're
just
all like, oh, this is a celebrity. He's fucking rich, gets all the pussy. You're not even thinking that he's analyzing you as a potential target,
right, right. And it's like, because I was in the right crowd of people, like this was before anybody was in the arena. This was like rehearsal the day before the events and stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like, you have to be invited in there or, be a part of it to be there. And then even after that, moving to Las Vegas and then hanging out with musicians all the time and just seeing a lot of things, like I knew that I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. You know what I mean? Like even after that, or actually this was before, because I before I lived in California briefly and I was working for Vans, the shoe skate company.
Yeah, my
And
kid's favorite shoes.
yeah, and like there was like all these people would come in, that's where I met Ice T, and that's where I met Shaq and all these guys. And like I remember like there was be guys that would come in there and they would say that they're looking for talent, for music videos and different stuff like that. And then, you'd go back in these little rooms and audition and shit. And nothing ever happened. Like I remember auditioning for like a Red Bull commercial back then, like because Red Bull was just coming out. Like this was probably like 1999. And so I remember tasting it back then and going, "What the fuck? This is terrible." And then it became like this huge beverage. But I when you see behind the scenes, it can really turn you away, and I'm
When
glad that I had those experiences to know that I don't want to be a part of it all, you know?
when I was like 18 or 19, the Holiday Inn in Gurnee, Illinois, where Barry Obama would eventually get his dick sucked by some crackhead. You know what I'm talking about? That place. Uh,
Yeah, I was trying to think of the guy's name right now. Shit, I can't think of it off the top of my head, but I
it's all
know
right.
exactly.
So, in that same hotel, that same Holiday Inn, they had a modeling scouting session down in their ballroom thing, right? And everyone who wanted you waited in this line, and they gave you a thing, and then eventually, it was your turn to go up, and they asked you some questions, and they took some pictures, and they either told you, yeah, you could go on to the next part, and this is who you needed to contact and shit like that, or no thank you, maybe we'll be in touch. And me and my buddy Eric went. And I always thought he was the better looking of us, you know what I mean? Like, but we went there, and I got an offer and he didn't, right? Um and that was the only reason I never followed through on the offer, right? Because we had kind of went there together, kind of like, hey, you wanna, try this out? Yeah, it'd be kind of cool if we can go and do shoots and shit. Um and maybe that was a blessing too, like fucking.
Yeah, things happen for a reason, and it makes me believe that there is a higher power that had your best interest in mind at the time and my best interest at that time in mind, you know? Because it's very easy for one to go down these dark paths and end up, in these situations.
Well, yeah,
If
and they
if
feed all your cardinal pleasures. They allow you to get all into booze and drugs and shit like that, right? The parties all the time. You get some money, you get some glam. But then when the fucked up shit happens, you try to throw yourself into the drugs and the fucking alcohol just to try to get away to not think about it. But then it has that adverse reaction. You ever see somebody who breaks up with their girlfriend and they're like, I'm gonna go get drunk, and then they're getting drunk the whole night and they're just fucking miserable because now they're drunk and thinking about the girlfriend they broke up with. You know what I mean? And it just becomes this spiraling cycle. And the more you get into it, the more it just seems to like crush your soul, and it's
Yeah.
horrible to watch that shit, dude. It really is.
Have you ever heard the song 25 to Life by Eminem?
Is it newer or is it older? If it was something older in like one of the first
Probably
three,
probably 15 years or so old at least, maybe a little
no,
more.
I remember up to like Curtain Call, And I think after Curtain Call, I think is where I kind of was done with Eminem after that. Not that I just didn't really listen anymore.
So in the song, he talks about, how the industry fed him the drug addictions and everything, and instilled all of that into him. And on the cover of the album, he's sitting in a glass box, in Detroit, downtown Detroit, like all the major skyscrapers looking down at him, and like he's on this pedestal. And in the song, like you listen to the lyrics and you think that he's talking about a girl, and they're breaking up and whatnot. But then, towards the end, it gets to where you realize, oh shit, he's talking about the music industry. You know, it's actually a really a deep cut, and I like it a lot. It's actually probably my favorite Eminem song. If I had to pick one.
I was watching somebody do a thing on Eminem, and they did this whole like documentary, basically on the music industry and plants and shit like that. And they were showing, like how when like when he said he was like this age, he was actually this age, and then you could verify it based on the time that these different things like occurred. And again, back then, blind to that, because you just had you knew them from the radio, you knew them from their CDs. Every now and again, like they'd be a guest on somebody's shit that you knew, and that was really the only access you had to their life or whatever, except if somebody like TMZ or something got onto a story, and then you'd have that scandal. With the internet, though, like you could pretty much put a microscope up anybody's ass.
It's true. It's true. But man, should we shift gears here?
Sure, let's go.
So let's talk about this surveillance shit real quick, and
Yeah.
because I know we got some other stuff to get into as well. Um, Flock has been a big topic lately. Proud to say my town just got rid of them. It just means the cops aren't using the service. The cameras are still there. Flock is still recording. But um, what's
Allegedly,
scarier?
the cops aren't using it. Allegedly.
Right. Well, so get this. Get this. Do you want to know why they stopped using them? One of the
I do.
officers that had access was following his ex, stalking his ex. So he was
Dude,
abusing the system.
that's your town that took place in?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's like multiple cases, but there's like a big one out of Arizona specifically that's literally on like the fucking news about that.
Yeah. And then there's some other issues like with the traffic tickets that they've been giving out and stuff too. So anybody that's ever gotten a traffic ticket in the mail knows that you just wait 90 days, and then if they don't come serve you in person, it gets expunged because they can't prove anything. So now, now, and Flock will probably eventually be gone. We've talked about it. Ted has mentioned it. I know others have mentioned it as well. That there's going to be another company that swoops in and takes over. And guess what? They're already here. Um, this company is called Signal Trace. Have you ever heard of this? It's
I
made by a
read this
company.
the other day.
It's made by a company called Leonardo.
Okay.
um, Signal Trace Investigative Evidence Beyond Plate Reads. So, an integrated signal intelligence system developed leads from consumer electronic devices. LSAG, or Signal Trace, is a groundbreaking software system for law enforcement designed to identify groups of consumer electronic devices that routinely travel together, even when a license plate number is not known. The system integrates seamlessly with the LSAG Enterprise Operations Center, our highly advanced data management and analysis software. Electronic devices such as fitness trackers, smartwatches, RFID tags, which could be your credit card,
Yep.
your debit card, and mobile
Anything that
phones.
responds to the signal.
Yep. And your mobile phones emit signals into the air. Signal Trace creates an electronic fingerprint for groups of the signals that the system determines are frequently emitted together. These electronic fingerprints provide insights law enforcement can use in real-time policing and investigations.
Yep. And you know what's funny? There's a lot of people don't talk about it, but again, I'll mention it. Over COVID, I did a whole deep dive into this because I noticed flocks weren't around yet. um, or they were just coming up. But I was watching every light. Right? They would put a camera above each light, and then at the top of the corner pole there would be a 360 camera. And then I would notice that when I was on the expressway, on every on ramp and every off ramp, there would be 360-degree cameras there to catch the traffic that went on. And then you would go, roughly a half mile down the road or a mile, and there'd be a 361. And then it would be at that interval. So they could track you from your point of getting on the highway and anywhere you went, and that they could track you through every light. But the point of being, these signal things were there too, because it talked about how they did infrared and that they had thermal imaging and that they could pick up certain signals and shit through, like phones and whatnot. Um, but those aren't in every city, right? Like some cities have them, some cities don't. But now that like fucking Flock came out, it's kind of like drawn attention onto it. So I also wonder, like, you know, you the shot spotters. You know what I'm talking about?
Did you say
The
shot? SHOT?
yeah, shot
Those
spotter.
are they listen for gunshots or something, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
So I guess uh, Flock just got into that aspect of it too, right?
Hmm.
Like they have those, and they look like kind of like small cylinders, small black cylinders that sit up on the thing. And technically, they listen for gunshots, right?
Right.
But they're completely capable of fucking listening to your conversation all the way down the block.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of creepy. And the question would also remain, those how long has that been going on? Like and where are those located? Like
Yeah. Dude, let me play this video. And I hate how they do this shit because like they put on this like soft music and they make it seem like it's a gentle little thing, nothing to worry about, nothing to see here.
puppies and clouds.
Right? Butterflies and rainbows. Like that thing said right there that it's going to be used to help find missing persons. If this system is in place, there are no missing
Right,
persons.
exactly. There's no such thing. Oh, there he is.
So,
You
dude,
know what's interesting that people don't realize? In every major city, and probably somewhere between, if you live in near a bunch of small towns or whatever, you'll have one. But they have these like their homeland security slash state police slash local agency command centers. Okay, and all of that shit feeds into that command center. Okay, now I know where the one in Gurnee, Illinois is. Okay, and it's located in a spot where uh, if they need to get to the highway's like 3 minutes that way, right? If they need something else, it's that way. It's a fucking looks like a farmhouse, right? It's just super inconspicuous, and you would never know if you didn't notice all the fucking Fed cars and the occasional police cars that are consistently there, right? It looks kind of run down, like but these are the operational centers, you know, that all those street cams and all that shit fucking feed into, and they get grants, and and then they deputize, you know, certain you know, your local police municipalities and shit. You know, there'll be one or two of those people there who are on board with that, so they're deputized federally, right? And so if they need a liaison or something like that, you know, they'll go. If there's a joint thing in your county or whatever, those are the people that make up that task force, right? Like everything gets piped into them.
Um, it it's really frightening because it ties in with that, you know, that Amazon shit that we remember we talked about that shit.
Guess what I found out?
What's that?
Flock. Guess who hosts all of Flock's servers?
The same Amazon.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all of their shit feeds into the fucking Amazon servers. So Amazon, even if it's not official, gets to fucking look at that shit behind the scene because it's on their systems.
This is scary shit, man. This is like Alex Jones was talking about this shit back in 2007 or 8. He was talking about these fusion centers that were popping up all about, who have no government regulation or anything, and they harvest data and share it with all these municipalities and whatnot. And I mean, this is just like, it's going even further than what he talked about back then.
Well, yeah, so do you remember when stingrays were kind of like a thing? Nobody knew what a stingray was, and then word kind of slipped out on them.
Why?
And then allegedly...
I don't want to talk about being stung anymore. I already got stung once last night.
So stingrays, they used to have like these vans, and they would take, and they'd be full of all these computer systems and shit, right? And they would take it to a location, and what it does is it pretends to be like a cell tower, right? So it captures all the information, and it's like a man-in-the-middle attack, essentially, right? And it fucking gets it, then it can bounce back. So they can swipe your fucking text messages out of the air, because and then encryption is it's encrypted when you read it here. It might be encrypted to receive it here, but fucking you can grab it all right here. And then they were using that for a while, and the whole aspect of that was if you couldn't identify that information in court, you were contractually obligated not to. What do they call it? A fucking NDA, right? So prosecutors, if somebody learned about what a stingray was, or if somebody learned that a stingray had been used in their thing, prosecutors would drop the fucking case just to end all talk about the stingrays. And, you know, like, it wasn't until more and more people, you know, got used to it that there was enough pushback that it got put down. But Flock cameras, that's essentially what they're doing, you know, now. And there's other systems in place where, you know, like, they capture all that shit, dude. And, you know, geofencing went to the Supreme Court recently, right? And that's when, like, something happens in an area, and then they just capture all the signals, and they say, okay, 100 people were here in this circle, right, of where this happened. And then they'll track all those people, and they get to do what it's called 2 hops, right? So if I interact with you through telephones or whatever, you're 1 hop. So they get to check your shit too. And then one more person, right? So it gets really fast out of line, but they'd be able to just go fucking 2 hops and shit, you know, just off of that. And it wasn't until even that got challenged, saying, hey, like, you need a warrant to even do that. You know, like, they've been using that for fucking God knows how long. And how many criminals, you know, like, that's the other thing, you know, like, we're only going to use it to find lost people or whatever, and we're using it for criminals. Then why aren't you solving more crimes with it? Because I guarantee you, like, if the city of Chicago, which has tons of this shit, had fucking, they should have wiped out essentially the majority of the fucking gang violence and major crime, right? But that's not the goal.
Right. Well, listen, I mean, this stuff, how does this stuff even prevent the crime? Okay,
Right.
Listen, this stuff may help find the criminal, you know, depending on what the crime is.
Right.
But it's not going to prevent them from doing the crime. You know, this shit, like, if I'm speeding in the car, having this stuff isn't going to help that. But guess what? That shit's coming too, because there's, you know, they're going to be able to shut your car down, just like in Minority Report, you know?
And you
Like,
know
that
what?
shit's still coming.
they want the crime. That's why they keep crime a certain level, right? Because they want it. Because crime scares people. And it's really easy to be like, "Oh, we're doing it for the better good. Don't worry." And that's just the thing I hate. If you don't have anything to worry about, if you don't have anything, if you're not doing anything illegal, you have nothing to worry about. No, that's not the case, right? Like, I'm not doing anything illegal doesn't mean I need a fucking camera watching me in my house. I'm not doing anything illegal, but I sure don't feel comfortable with that. And we're getting to that point where it's like, you're selfish, you're a bad person if you don't want this out there, like.
Well, you remember during COVID when they were telling people that you're not allowed to visit your family members and shit. Well, guess what? With this new technology, they're going to be able to say, "Oh, look, so and so's letting their aunt visit." You know what I
Yep,
mean? Now you are committing a crime. Remember?
right.
It's no big deal because you said, "I don't have anything to worry about. I didn't commit crime."
Yeah.
Well, now you do because they decided to make a new rule for you.
Right. Well, and also look at things like this. Like I'll give you an example of how that shit goes. Is when they'll also put a law on the books, right? They'll pass it, and it seems obscure because nobody's utilizing it or whatever. But so I'll give you an example. Back in the day, the whole concept with like piracy was the issue, right? Like if you downloaded it, that was the crime, right? If you distributed it, that was the crime. That's why you had movie sites where you could stream movies, right? You weren't
Mhm.
downloading the movies. The streaming bypassed it, right?
Right.
It was like 2023 or 2024, where now technically on the books that's a felony, right? But they haven't implemented it yet. You know what I mean? Like they haven't started to utilize it because everything's not in place. Because your video game systems and shit are going to go the way of the dodo, right? You're going to have to stream your games. You'll be streaming your game on Netflix and shit like that. That's how they're going to narrow everybody in. But it's going to be at that point, and then they're going to be like, well, the law's been on the books since fucking 2023. We just haven't really paid attention, or we just, you know what I mean? And then they just choke you the fuck out.
Mm. They want to lock you down in your little 15-minute city.
Yep.
Eat your bugs, peasant. Stay
Right.
there.
And
That's the other
nothing
thing.
is
That's the
yours.
other thing about all this tracking too is like they can say, "Oh, look, he's out of his 15-minute zone."
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's very dystopian, Uh, very fucking Minority Report, very 1984, and it's very fast,
It's
it's
very
coming upon
Philip
us.
K. Dick.
Did you hear that? Now I don't know if this is true, like on a national level, because I don't get involved in these things, but I heard that Halloween is like people are calling it National
Yeah,
Deflock Night, right?
yeah. I
So
read
I
that.
I
Yeah.
don't know if that's a real thing, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Because everybody has masks on Halloween night, and it's gonna once you fuck that thing up, you know how are they gonna track where you went with it except by the other flock cameras? But if somebody's fucking that one up too or whatever, so
Well,
I
but
mean, I could
now they
see
can
that
track you with
happening.
your fucking earbuds. They'll be able to track you.
Right, right, right. Did you have your cell phone when you approached that thing? Well, guess what? They're gonna be like, yeah, okay, these signals were in the range of this thing when this happened. So let's just let's go have a talk with that guy, and then let's go and see what time they left their house, and we'll go into the Amazon ring fucking sidewalk shit and be like, oh, okay, he went here, here, here. Yep, sure enough, there he is.
Oh man, is
Times, man.
there's really no avoiding all of this, is there?
No, unfortunately, it's good to see people pushing back though. That I
Yes.
do appreciate that. I appreciate that. It seems like it's an issue where even normies are fucking like, no, this is going too far. So we'll see where it goes. I hope maybe it prevents it a little bit longer. Like it's one of those things where they want to implement it, but they gotta wait a couple more years and just slowly get people more and more used to it.
Yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know because we're on that 2030 agenda or whatever. So
Yeah, dude, it's crazy that shit's 3 years away, dude.
mhm.
3
Dude,
years.
Maui's going to be one of the first digital cities. They want to put one in LA. Look, and then wherever you see these fucking fires, just happen to be just happen to be places where they already talked about wanting to set up this digital infrastructure. So I mean, we're going one way or another. Maybe
It's
we could postpone it a little bit if people speak out, but yeah, we're going there.
this is like a modern day version of what happened in the 1800s. Fires everywhere, and they just
Yep.
rebuilt a whole new system.
Yes.
And those who don't go along with it, there's a nice place for you to go. A
No,
FEMA camp,
loony
as
bin.
some might call them.
Yep.
No, remember they built all those FEMA camps. They're already in place.
Yeah, I'm saying back then it was the
Right,
insane asylum. Now
right.
it's gonna be the fucking FEMA camps or whatever. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is
Well,
unfortunate. But how do we get there? We let them do it. You know what I mean? Implied consent. That's what it really is. There's consent and there's implied consent, right? If somebody tells you what they're doing, and you go along with it, right? That's implied consent. If I say, I live in Illinois, technically it's a two-party state if we're on the phone and I'm recording. If I tell you, hey, Snoop, I'm recording this call, and you say no or whatever, blah, 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 but you don't hang up, well, that's implied consent because you know I'm recording it. So by continuing under those things, you're basically saying, yeah, I'm good with this. So if you come back and you try to sue me, I get to say, Your Honor, he knew this isn't note taken, like fucking, if he didn't want it, he could have hung up. And that was the same thing that they told, uh, uh, who was it? It was Socrates, right? At the end of thing, it was like, the state tells him, you could have left anytime you wanted. You could have left anytime you wanted, but now you're getting put to death, right? So there was the door. It was always there, but you chose not to take it. So you're subject.
do you think we could possibly disrupt the economy enough to cause it all to collapse?
No, because they control the economy, and that'll be something that they're going to use on us to bring that in. Because the food sources and all that's already dwindled, right? And financially, if you get to a point where gas is so expensive that you can't get to and from work, right? Your bills start going behind, shit like that, and there's not enough supply. So that's an automatic lockdown. That's an energy lockdown, right? We just don't have the gas. Oh man, this war in Iran really backfired on us. Gas is really, really expensive. Oh, you can't make your commute to the city every day like you did. There's a problem. Oh, we can't get your food to the city if everybody's driving around. Better keep your ass at home. And then on top of that, then you become subservient, right? Because now, how do you feed your family? How do you take care of
Grow
shit?
your own.
Well, yeah, big government, is going to come through and says, this is what the New Deal is. This is the New Deal, and that's what they're going to drop on us. The New Deal, and it'll be the AI government slash surveillance state in your 15-minute city or whatever, and
Yeah.
that'll all come with them crashing the economy, because that'll be the way that they force people to bend the knee. And that's why they got you worried about ticks and shit, because they don't want you running off into the woods and everything sprayed. But you know what? I'm willing to bet that the only safe place is going to be those woods that they want you afraid of, that fucking isolated area. Because going into the system is the implied consent, right? Participating in the system is the implied consent. Even when the Antichrist comes along, you have to take that mark, right? There's free will, so it's another form of consent.
Yeah,
So those who,
I think that Sasquatch might be onto something, man. Just hide out in the fucking forests.
dude, I'm telling you. And maybe that's how Sasquatch started, like as
Maybe.
civilizations were starting, and
They're
he was
really
like,
just they're the giants from the 1800s that
yeah,
survived.
yeah, they're like, fuck that. We don't want any part of that. We see where that's going. And they just fucking, and they probably got their own tunnel networks and shit,
Yeah,
from that
right.
we've forgotten about. And they'll just maneuver around through there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
possible.
Well, the reason I ask about the disruption of the economy, because one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is the housing crisis that we may already be in. If
Yes.
you remember, 2000, when did it
8.
start? 6, 8. Uh, it was a big deal, but that was because banks were approving loans and just giving out money like it was
Yep.
nothing,
Subprime
and it caused
mortgages.
the crash. But now it seems like people just aren't able to pay their mortgages, and it sounds like The problem is so big, and that's why they're not talking about it yet, because they don't know what to do about it yet, because it seems like it's so big. This girl breaks it down in the video here, and then after she does, I have some other stuff that I want to pull up regarding the numbers and whatnot. So let's give this a watch.
Yeah.
Y'all, people are really not paying their bills. I know you guys have recently found out that there is a large portion of people that have just stopped paying their mortgage. They've defaulted on their mortgage loan, and the banks are pretty much just like, it's so many, we can't even do nothing about it. This is worse than 2008. The difference is they're not publicizing it. They're not causing widespread panic. I don't understand the game plan of them trying to keep this as a secret when we all know what's actually going on. I think the reason why they're not saying anything or much about the financial situation is because once we all find out, the ones that still paying our bills, that everybody else ain't paying their bills, we'll also stop paying our bills. And the craziest part about this is mortgages and rent and, keeping a place over your head is typically the last bill that people stop paying. Yep. People will default on everything else. Credit cards is first thing, maybe even your car, but it's typically the car and the house that are the last things to go. And the fact that so many people are not paying their mortgage, and the fact that the bank ain't even foreclosing on them or arranging to kick them out because it's too many, speaks volumes. This is definitely worse than 2008. 2008 only went bad because the banks were intentionally giving out terrible loans to where they just inflated to an impossible amount to pay. Not that people didn't have jobs, not that people didn't have money. It was simply because of the loan. The banks, they did that on purpose to cause the crash. But this situation here has been a long stretch of intentionally making the middle class take hit. Even the upper class take hit after hit after hit after hit. Let me ask y'all something. Do y'all really think these people in Congress and in our government, local, state, and for the entire United States, do you really think that they're getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and they don't know exactly what they're doing? Do you think they went to these prestigious colleges and these business schools and all this hoopla, all this extra stuff? They've been doing this for 20 plus years. You think they don't know what they're doing? They absolutely know what they're doing. It's intentional to bring us to our knees. It's intentional, and I 100% think it is going to get a lot worse. Yep. I think this is really just the beginning, and as you can see, it's becoming a food war. It's becoming a water war, and I think it's going to get pretty scary. I think human nature is going to start to come out, as it already has. So yeah, you just going to have to pray. You're going to have to pray and make sure that you're covered by God. There's no solution for this. I feel like these things must happen. This whole system is going to have to come to an end.
Hey, I agree. You got to pray about it, and hopefully those prayers are answered, but you also have to put action behind those prayers. You have to take action and do something about it. If we just sit around on our ass and pray about it, nothing's going to happen.
Well, the problem is, I think we're too far along to stop anything. Like I said, I think you can prolong things. I think local government is the best way to go. To make your at least immediate area a little bit better. Unless they send in stormtroopers from the outside, which is one of the last things. Your quality of life is going to be dictated by who you have in your local government, right? Like during COVID, there were cops in some places and sheriffs in some places that would pull people over in the middle of the fucking night or whatever and look for their papers, right? Luckily, I lived in a place where the sheriffs and the police and all that were like, that's not our fucking job. No, we're not doing that. Absolutely not. But there were plenty of places that were, all too willing to be a part of that, So that's, again, why local government matters so much. You know what I mean? Like, because that's where you're going to have your best chance at your real quality of life. Because presidents, everybody looks at like, oh, Donald Trump is going to make or break everything. Well, dude, he's just the head of the executive branch. We have a whole Congress. We have a whole judicial system. You know what I mean? Those all are failing, but it's easy for them to focus it on one person and to have everybody narrow their sights on that and narrow the blame. You know what I mean? Because I don't think you can do anything. You couldn't even have a revolution because they have the better technology, they have better weapons. Dude, they could strangle cities by just preventing food from going there. They can turn on your little fucking the 5G towers and fucking basically, like make you feel really uncomfortable and nauseous and fucking, you're gonna buckle down, like so,
You saw what
you
they did to
know,
the toilet paper industry in 2020.
yeah, yeah. Big toilet paper, baby. Big toilet paper was behind COVID. I'll be quiet so you can show the numbers and whatnot.
Yeah, let's talk about this. This is some crazy shit right here, and this is just as of August 5th, so this is almost 2 weeks old. I'll blow it up so if people want to read it, they can. Which loan types are defaulting the most right now? FHA mortgage delinquency hit 11.88% in 2026 quarter one, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association National Delinquency Survey. In quarter one, 2026, the latest quarter, both mortgage series report, FHA delinquency was 6.3 times the bank booked single family mortgage rate. Auto loans at a record 5.60%, total consumer delinquency of 4.76%. Board of Governors and the Federal Reserve System, Federal Reserve Bank of New York, and Mortgage Bankers Association data updated quarterly. Federal Reserve data retrieved via Fred, whoever the fuck Fred is. But I mean, let's see. The total delinquency rate across all consumer debt stood at 4.76% in quarter one, up from a post-pandemic floor of 2.5% and approaching the pre-2008 level of 4.92% that preceded the worst consumer credit crisis in modern history. So, I mean, it's coming.
If you're in
No,
the
and this
chat
is
and you own
this
a
is
home,
it's probably
push
not
one.
it's probably underreported too. The number's probably
Absolutely.
higher.
How many people out there own a home that are watching? I think you'll be able to identify with this. There's also another trend while all this is going on, right? Like property taxes are like fucking exploding, right? When you bought your house, the property taxes were here, right? And if you've had your house for any long length of time, you've probably seen them triple by now, if not even quadruple, right? And they just keep expanding. And then on top of that, the home insurance, right? Now you see these home insurance people are like, well, they're ballooning rates, and then on top of that, they're causing you to spend all this money on like cutting down trees that aren't even hanging over your roof and shit like that. And the problem is, your insurance company is usually attached to your mortgage as well. So if you lose the insurance, you're going to default on the mortgage, right? So it also becomes financially impossible to keep up with it because you budgeted your mortgage and everything at a certain amount, right? And now it's like fucking ballooning to the point where it becomes unaffordable. Like they're hitting it from just so many different ways, and there's
From
different
every
devious ways.
way.
Just like automobiles, right? Like I was selling cars at one point in time, and there was a dude. I mean, dude, for like a month they wanted like fucking a ridiculous amount, and I had to get on because I was like, that doesn't sound right. And I'm like, hey, you know we're talking about just this amount of time. They're like, yeah, blah 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 blah, and this is this and blah. I was like, holy shit, bro. Like they're ballooning it because you won't be able to afford insurance. And if you can't keep insurance on your car, you're going to default on your loan there. So your car goes up. But if you can't pay for gas and you can't pay for insurance, well, go take the local Uber and get into your 15-minute city. And you can't afford the house. It's like a death from a thousand, cuts. The way that the python's just squeezing and squeezing and squeezing.
Hmm.
Like
Dude,
those who
I
own their houses outright are somewhat lucky because they just have to worry about the property taxes. But even if your property tax is say $9,000 a year or something like that, that equals to approximately $600-700 a month. So it's like you're renting even though you're not. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's just
on land that you own and a house that you own.
yeah, yeah.
I just had sent El Poopy an advertisement for a brand new GMC Denali pickup truck, right?
hundred
Just
thousand bucks.
is that your guess?
Yeah. Was it over?
Oh yeah,
It was over 100,000? Was it
oh yeah.
120?
Keep going,
150?
keep going.
Dude, 200?
$170,000.
See? That you could well, in my day you could buy a fucking house for that. Now,
You could buy a house
but
in
that's
some areas of the country.
yeah,
They're
yeah, you
not in the
could.
15-minute city. You
Right.
know?
That's insane and that's a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your monthly note on that gonna be?
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
shit.
it's ridiculous.
I was tripping just shit 8 7 8 years ago. A friend of mine, she bought a Jeep and her payment was going to be over $600, and I was like,
Right?
damn, that's a hell of a
Right?
lot, to be
Yep.
paying for the car.
Yep.
I
And
mean,
and now that's a low number.
yeah.
Now it starts at that. I paid off my car and I got it for like it was fucking 0% interest or whatever, 1% interest. Uh, my payment was like $395 a month, you know? And I, paid all that off over, like 5 years or whatever. I could never get that again. I'll never ever see unless I buy like a fucking used piece of junk somewhere, you know. I'll never see a fucking $400 fucking car payment again, you know? They're not going to exist. They don't exist. The price alone on cars is too extreme unless you put so much money down to, then allow it to, but people don't understand that math either. When people buy a
Right.
car, you realize how much math they just don't understand. They're like, well, can we just put it over like 7 years? Well, that's kind of a stretch. Well, let's do it like 10. No, the bank's not going to take that loan. You got to remember, they're here to make money too. It's,
It's terrifying, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And I think again, I think it's on us. That's a part of it, like we had our head in the sand for so long. We let them make decisions for so long. You know, there's something that happens when you don't go to the PTA meetings, when you don't get involved with your elections, when you don't hold your Congress accountable. If you're leaving them to make the decisions, they're going to make the decisions that are in the best interest of them. And if they can continuously do it and they're not really getting any pushback and nobody's paying attention because they're watching, the latest movies and sports games and playing the latest video games and they're trying to fucking keep their lives together working, fucking 40, 50, 60 hours a week, and they can't pay attention. It gets us to where we are today. That's why in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, those people were still paying attention. You know what I mean? Those people were still like, fuck that, like those people would have fucking been up in arms. Those are the people that would have been like, from my cold dead hands, motherfucker. But those days are gone. Now you have people that can't even fucking read. If it wasn't for uh autocorrect spelling and shit on their phone, they can't even fucking type. You know what I mean? Like, so we kind of let ourselves get corralled into the pen, if you will.
Yeah. Well, and like, you were saying, that they're pushing us away. One of the things that I got here to bring up is how they're pushing the water away from California and California farmers. Check this shit out. Uh, California farmers are putting up signs uh, ever here. I guess it's supposed to say over here, maybe, saying that Gavin Newsom is dumping nearly 80% of their water into the Pacific Ocean. California freshman Assemblyman David Tinglepow says our absolutely true. It's 100% happening. That actually in the state of California, almost 83% of all water in the state of California is automatically pushed out for environmental purposes. 83% is pretty much how they've locked in the legislations. We have prioritized so much environmental legislation right now that more than 80% of our water is allocated towards wetlands and pushed out immediately to the ocean. 100,000 plus million gallons per year is being diverted into the Pacific Ocean because of the environmental groups that should be going to farmers. Let's play the video and then we'll talk about it. Yeah.
And what's exacerbating the situation is this. Sign after sign, all lining busy highways and interstates, claiming nearly 80% of California's total river water flows are being sent to the Pacific Ocean instead of farms. Claims that California freshman Assemblyman David Tangapaw says are absolutely true.
It's 100% happening. That actually in the state of California, almost 83% of all water in the state of California is automatically pushed out for environmental purposes. 83% is pretty much how they've locked in the legislations.
And for Tangapaw, the core of the issue can be tied to what he calls bad legislation.
So we have an average of about 200 million acre feet of water fall on the state of California. That's our line. We know that. We've been tracking it since about 1864. And if we know that the average line is 200 million acre feet, then we should also understand what we need to keep here, what it's going to be able to service to. But we have prioritized so much environmental legislation right now that more than 80% of our water is allocated towards wetlands and pushed out immediately to the ocean.
All right, so how big of an issue is this? How much water exactly is being diverted away from farmers into the Pacific Ocean because of environmentalist groups and rules by Democrats? This is a really hard number to wrap your head around because it's so large, but according to this, 100,000 plus million gallons of water is cited in examples to be diverted because of environmentalist rules and that are being pushed by these environmentalist groups. I mean, this is wild. This is what Trump was talking about when he said that they needed to turn back on the water to farmers. Environmentalist groups are diverting 100,000 plus million gallons away from farmers and just pumping it into the Pacific Ocean.
I mean, what are they doing over there?
Well, humans need two things to survive, right? They need food and they need water. And if you take away the water, then they're gonna buckle because you can go like a month without food, but you can only go like 3 days or a lot less long. And for my Jewish brothers and sisters, I also got the aluminum yarmulke too. So I'm here to serve everybody.
Oh man, that's
But
awesome.
yeah, they have fucking Nestle and all that. Robin Williams, when he did Live on Broadway, he actually did a whole bit about how fucking water was going to be an issue here in the future. Remember, it was like ice. I got ice, motherfucker.
I got this motherfucker. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
What's wild? What's wild is so check this out. This is not just happening here in America.
Right.
There's in is it Switzerland? Is that where Perrier really comes out? But there's a Nestle. Nestle makes Perrier, and they have a big Nestle Perrier plant in, I believe it's Switzerland. And guess who owns it and is in charge of it? The Bush family.
Surprise! Yeah, dude.
I mean,
Nestle. There's documentaries showing how Nestle sucks up a bunch of our fucking lake water and shit, right? And then that goes out to other countries and shit, and they sell bottled waters there. Plus, they fill reservoirs and shit like that, right? And on top of that, let me put this back on. With the whole weather modification situation, they push the rain out over the oceans and the lake to create the artificial droughts because then the farmers have to default. They can't produce the food. You have to become dependent on Big Daddy government. Let me shut up and you can pull up what you got.
Listen to this. T. Boone Pickens, the late billionaire oil tycoon, became the largest private owner of groundwater rights in the United States by purchasing vast tracts of land in the Texas Panhandle overlying the, I don't even know how to say that, aquifer. He aimed to profit by pumping and piping this water to thirsty, growing cities like Dallas. So basically, what he did was buy up all the lands around. Like, I don't know how many people know about this, but under the central portion of the United States sits the world's largest water aquifer. We have more fresh water available than people understand in this huge, and it takes up almost the whole central part of the United States.
Because of the Mississippi.
And so what T-Boone did is he bought all this land around and started sucking all the water up from his land and then distributes it to people at a premium.
Yep.
What a fucking scumbag.
And you got to think when they're out there drilling for oil and whatnot, you know, like they know where all this is. So they know the property to buy, right? They know the legislation to get pushed where so they can get access to those water and mineral rights. But the average person, you know, has retarded teachers there in school teaching them about fucking rainbows and whatever, you know, so they don't get an actual education. So they have a fucking fighting chance to be informed on all this stuff. They're just along for the ride. So that way, places like the Hoover Dam. What is the name of that? That feeds
Hoover
into
Dam.
the Hoover Dam, Lake Powell or whatever.
The Colorado River flows into it.
Okay, but doesn't it also reach out to like Lake Powell or some shit like that?
There is Lake Powell and Lake Mead are
Lake Mead
right together. Yeah,
and they're damn near drying out, right? Like they're fucking depleting all of that, and that's the water source for damn near everything out that way, right? Which means all of those millions of people have to displace. Well, where are they going to displace to? The suburbs and the cities, right? But if you can't buy a house or whatever, you got to, and then that's going to be a part of the thing too. It's going to be like, well, we don't have houses for everybody. Go to your local Walmart. You know, you want a good fresh drink? Go to your Walmart. Go get processed. We'll give you food. We'll give you some water. You have something to sit in, you know, like, and I don't know if it's Walmart particularly, but I know that they're a part of the national surveillance system, security system that deals with that kind of stuff. So it's like them, etc.
Oh man, every fucking angle they want to just get it from every angle. Like you said, that python's just got the grip around us, and
it is.
It's
you know,
really scary, man. Like I'm really glad I don't have children.
Dig a well, you know, like if you have a home, you know, like usually the water table's somewhere about 3 feet or so underneath the soil, right? You can start getting it, but get fucking 7 feet down, build a fucking well, or go, you know what I mean? Control access to your own water. Problem with that is you're gonna have to test it from time to time because of now all the shit that they fucking pour everywhere. I saw a thing where, you know, they saw the corroded barrels of fucking toxic waste and shit just leaking shit out in the ocean and different lakes and shit. You know, so they're also cutting off your retreats because it's like, well, that shit's gonna be fucking poison too, you know. So just I don't know, plan accordingly, I guess.
How long until that's illegal? And you know what's really
rainwater
crazy?
in Arizona or Texas, you're not supposed to collect, right? They're all like, oh, that's
I don't know. I don't know if Arizona is one of those places. I know Oregon is one of those places where it's illegal to collect rainwater. Now, who the fuck voted yes on that? That's what I want to know. Like, what? I mean, if it's coming from the sky, you should be allowed to catch it on your property or whatever. Now, I can understand like you don't go into, you know, maybe city property or something. I don't know, but as long as you're on your own property, it should be well within your right to capture rainwater.
And well, the interesting thing is, how long have those? When you look at those laws in places that have them, they've had them for like decades, right?
Yeah,
like a
long
decade or
time.
more. So that means they had that foresight to put that in place. So when the time for the emergency happens, right? Oh no, you can't do that. And from time to time, they smack somebody's hand, and people are like, "What the fuck is going on there?" You know what I mean? So they have the infrastructure already set up. They have the system to constrict you with. It's just a matter of when it's time to get really fucking on board with it, you know? And then they're just like, well, you know, the rule's been there. You got to have your legislator change it. But now we're in the middle of a crisis, so deal with it.
Order out of chaos.
Order out of chaos. Yep. It is what it is. So be good to the people around you, man. You know, look out for each other.
Yeah, let's briefly talk about your boy Andrew Wilson real quick, because then we got I want to get into the Wisconsin thing that you sent me, and then I have something else that goes along kind of with that Wisconsin thing. But you heard about the earpiece, Andrew Wilson
Yeah,
and
yeah.
his earpiece. Um,
But that was confirmed that it was a monitoring earpiece, so that they could hear the show and communicate with their team in the background. Like
yeah,
that was verified today that it
but
wasn't sketchy. But let's go.
yeah,
General Holt.
Yeah.
What's in that? What is that? What is
Bothers me
that?
about
That's an
this.
earpiece.
Nothing
Was
in
that
particular.
legal?
It's not like I'm out there saying big lie.
You
or
see how he's
conspiracy
touching
or
his
someone did
earpiece?
it. I'm
Yeah.
just saying,
Was he
I've been
wearing
in
an
a lot of
earpiece?
shootings that have killed more
100%.
than a
He
handful
was.
of people,
Wait a
and
minute.
100%.
that's
What do you mean he
the
was
same
wearing an
Candace
earpiece?
have it too?
Are you ready?
Okay,
I
go.
mean, just I've killed
That's Candace's earpiece.
What does that mean?
They gave that earpiece to all of us.
So every they
Oh,
they had it
No,
too.
no. But wait a minute. Watch what just happened.
Yeah.
The market believes he had an earpiece of things being fed to us. That was an earpiece that Candace's producers gave Candace, gave him.
To hear everything you
gave
guys
me.
behind the scenes.
So
Is
we
she
can-
going to say that on air?
She would easily. I don't
I
think she
think
would
she
have a
should.
problem.
Yeah.
I think she will. I don't think she has a problem with that. But that is their earpiece.
I mean that makes sense,
Mhm.
right? I mean that's what I thought at first. I was like, oh, that's just an ear monitor, just like I'm wearing an in-ear monitor right now. No big deal, right? But people see the headline, oh, Wilson wears earpiece, and they just want to run with it.
Bias, or you can want to run with it, right? Which is, and I think that's what X is about. I see it more and more. They create these pockets of narratives, and that's what they use to turn each other on. All right, go on to your next thing. I'll be quiet.
So this is the one you sent me today here. Absolute chaos broke out at the Wisconsin State Fair as teens began beating anyone in sight. Multiple police officers were badly beaten as families with kids were seen running for their lives as teens began brawling. We don't have to live like this. Ooh.
Oh shit!
We go.
Where's that bitch on shit?
We go.
Where's my
Stop that.
Where's my friend at? Come on, Kawhi! They running! Oh, they running! Quay running! Who is that running? That's Quay.
Well,
That's
luckily, we've got all these fucking sensors put in place, so they're gonna know everybody that was there and was a part of it.
That behavior was conditioned. That was
Absolutely.
conditioned through the riots, etc. And these people have grown up with that mentality, right? And it's only going to get worse, right? Like that is what the Zoomers and all those fucking people, that's what they know, right? That's what they were brought into. And you also notice all those people who cry that they are broke or whatever, like they all have like top end fucking Nikes and fucking clothing, and like I can't afford that shit, and I work and I struggle to fucking stay afloat. But you can have a fucking $100+ fucking pedicure and weaves and fucking top of the line Gucci bags and shoes and shit, but you're like, I can't buy anything else because it's also a part of. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the economy in the world isn't shit, but I'm also saying you could have more if you didn't overly extravagance on material bullshit, you know? Like, do you need a pair of $300 Nikes? No. You want them because everyone else has them or it's a symbol, but you don't need them, and you would be able to apply that money elsewhere in your life if you didn't have them, you know, but conditioned.
Yeah, it's dude, it's terrible. I was just watching this this other video yesterday. It's like a police body cam video, and it had these two little kids, and what they were doing was hopping over the counters at Target and stealing electronics and various stuff. And so they're at this one Target, and the cops get there before the two were able to steal anything. And it turns out their mother was a part. Now, these kids, when I say kids, they're like seriously like 10, 11 years old, you know, like not even teenagers yet. And their mother is a part of this with them. The kids go in and steal it all, and then they come out and hop in her car, and she speeds off. And so they get in, and they found merchandise in the car from previous. I guess they're all around Atlanta area, and they found them to be responsible for like $26,000 worth of, you know, mostly Apple products that they were stealing.
Well,
but but my point was going to be that that's the conditioning right there. The mother's conditioning them and allowing that type of behavior. You know, parents need to do better.
And look at the byproduct of that. So I'll give you an example, like in Chicago, right? Especially over on the South Side. But a lot of big chain, big box stores, Walgreens, Walmarts, etc., are pulling out and creating it's like one location for a whole fucking area. Like old people gotta fucking take the bus for miles just to get to a place so they can buy groceries. Because these big competitors put all the little guys out, and then they condition this behavior, and these people just run in, take whatever they want, and you know, and then they enable that because they're like, oh, we're not going to target shoplifting, right? Like it's a victimless crime. Don't worry about it. And eventually, you know, that now they start pulling that out, and it just creates these like, okay, now you have to go there now, and then you see that that mindset. They try to come out to like the suburbs and shit and do that, you know, and sometimes it works, and sometimes the suburbs are ready. But the long and the short of it is, I think that's the goal, right? To have that one location cover a certain area and that everyone's required to go. Because again, it's about dependency. Setting up the system.
Yep. And you know, meanwhile, I gotta fucking get my deodorant unlocked from the fucking cabinet because it's locked up now. You know what I mean? But you know, it's the conditioning. You know, I mean, look at this shit right here. This is crazy. Louisville, Kentucky, stunned by release of audio of black garbage men laughing to their black supervisors after fatally crushing a homeless white woman and then never calling 911 or doing anything to render aid. Prosecutors already announced free passes last May.
Man, man, and damn it. Hey, man, damn it, picked up a homeless over here, man, in the path. Oh, damn, where you were there? You saw the
Well, as we reported first, back in May, no charges are going to be filed against those city workers.
Focus investigative reporter Travis Breeze has since been investigating this case back since February. And Travis, you got that video and then reviewed it with the family.
They moved the truck forward about 75 feet, but never got back out to check on her.
They say that he must be fine because he's moving.
Anybody who had been even just punctured would have been moving around.
Body camera video after the incident shows the strength of the claw.
She got up to save her own life while they sat there and they did absolutely nothing but trying to save themselves.
59, a store employee calls 911.
Does this look like someone who's all right?
No, it looks like somebody who's begging for help but can't get it out.
The store employee who called 911 had no idea what happened to Tyra.
She fell through the door, so she came running in the door, help.
Man, man, and damn it. Hey, man, damn it, picked up a homeless over here, man, in the path. Oh, damn, where you were at? You saw the film?
They're mocking the situation. And they thought it was funny.
The manager asks how bad the injuries are.
But did the car hit him? Man, it didn't, I don't know if it hit him. You know what I'm saying? You think it touched him or what? Yeah, it hit him.
A public works supervisor shows up while the ambulance is still on scene. At one point, he walks towards the store, sees the ambulance, and turns back around.
Basically just leaving the scene.
The supervisor told police in his interview he didn't think it was an emergency because the ambulance didn't have its lights on.
Wow. That's terrible.
It is terrible. And, you know, for anybody else, it would be essentially a hit and run. They even admit on the thing, yeah, it touched them, right? But then you don't even get out to check. And for the prosecutor to decide that, you know, no charges, we're not going to do anything about this, right? Like, really says where we've come with the value of life, right? And if somebody's homeless, that automatically makes them like fucking disposable or less of a person, you know? Like, it's we're losing our way with shit like this, you know? I hope that family sues that town, right? They may not get criminal justice, but, you know, they sure the fuck can go get civil justice. But, dude, that's heartbreaking to see such disregard, dude, for another human life.
Yeah. Shall we end on some happy stuff?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Here's a little funny one for us. Are you a Barry Manilow fan?
Been a while?
No, dude, that was
Yeah.
Stained. I'm talking about Barry Manilow. But check out Barry Manilow here. Was that necessary? Was the crotch grabbing necessary?
Sometimes you just gotta know when to hang it up, right? Like Mick Jagger's starting to look like that too when you see him out there trying to like fucking.
Well, he's 80 years old, man.
Right. It's like hang it up. You shouldn't be out, you know, like fucking trying to be a rock star anymore, you know? It's just I'm surprised he didn't like pull his fucking back with that, you know? He's all like, and just like,
Well, and did you hear, like, I mean, we were too distracted from the ball grabs to notice
Trying
that
to hear
the,
his
the
voice?
singing. I mean, it's just like, what the hell's the other guy? Frankie Valli, that they keep prancing out there who can't even form a sentence. And these guys are still paying their toll, I guess.
it's a product, man, I guess. But sometimes you just got to know when to fold them, you know? Don't be that guy. If you ever when stop while you're ahead. That's really what it is. And with that,
All right. We got one more little funny video here.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill and you can just keep saying, so what? You take the red pill. You learn everything about the Tyler Robinson case.
So what? So what? So what? So what? Positive evidence? So what? So what? When? Appeal to emotion? So what? Burden of proof? So what? So what? So what? So what? Appeal to emotion? So what? Burden of proof? So what? Positive evidence? Positive evidence? Positive evidence? Positive evidence? So what? So what? So what? Appeal to emotion? What? So what?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop!
The Debatrix. But, oh man, we got to end it on a light note because, I mean, dude, you know, some of the stuff we talk about, you know, it can be depressing, you know?
Kimbe.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, you take the black pill and then you start seeing all this stuff, and you gotta have a little bit of fun. You gotta have a little bit of humor in your life, and
You you know what I found out today about Candace Williams' husband that I never knew about?
Candace
I
Owens.
seen that. Yeah, George Farmer. I seen a clip where he was talking about how he was uh about when he was being trained by the Jesuits, and I'm like,
Okay.
oh, that opens up a whole different fucking category. So for people who don't know, but we'll get into
Yeah.
it in another time.
But meanwhile, head on over to phoneboothpodcast.substack.com. Check out all the great content. The Phone Booth Podcast. Got the Here's the Thing podcast, the live streams, the Philosopher King, the Mind of Madness. There's some shorts. There's some merch. Go check that out. There's all kinds of bonus content for those subscribers. There's the merch finally loading up, and give it a scope. See, these threads are awesome too, and they're reasonably priced too. I mean, most of them are only $20. It's hard to find a t-shirt for that kind of deal today. And then after you get through over there, head on over to Can-Am Bullion. Check out all the precious metals over there. Let's see if we can refresh and get us a price update here. Still hanging in. Silver's up just a tiny bit more, up to $66. Gold's still on the up. And if you're going to make some bigger purchases, hit up Michael Pizzioni, and he can help you out and get you all dialed in and squared away and set up and delivered. And that, my friend, is another episode of Mainstream Monday Delivered. And,
hopefully the chat will be back next week. Hopefully it'll be working proper by then, or for some of the other
I'm gonna
streams.
email him as soon as we get done with the stream here. I'm gonna email support and see what's going on. Like I said, I was told earlier in the day today they were doing some maintenance, and it looks like it's messed up some stuff. The chats weren't working on Saturday, not just for our podcast, but other podcasts out there I've noticed had some issues as well. And it's so messed up that we don't even have our sweet ass outro song to take us out of here tonight. So I'm going to need you to sing, Templar. Go ahead.
It goes on and on.
This is the song that will drive you insane.
Not knowing what it was, but
now we'll continue singing it
forever, just because it
because
is
this is the song that will drive you insane. Yes, it will grow inside your brain.